Okay, this video is on the various ways that you can access the remote UNIX server that we're going to be using for CIT 144. Now, just some general information about the server. First, the name of the server is cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. It is a Linux operating system, in particular Ubuntu Linux. And as far as ways that we can access this server, we can access it for remote login using SSH, or we can use it for file transfer using SFTP. So those are going to be the two protocols that are used. Now, we'll talk about interactive login first, which is with Secure Shell, SSH, and we'll talk about doing that from a command line. So we will do this from a Unix machine, in particular my Mac OS laptop, and to do this we need to be connected to the VPN before we go through and do that. So I have a short video that talks about the process of doing this. Okay, when you're using SSH from a command prompt, first you do have to be connected to the VPN with the FortiClient VPN client. And just to prove to you that I've already done that before the call, here's that window showing that I'm connected. I have an IP address, and we see that the bytes being received and sent are changing over time. So I am connected to the KCTCS VPN. Now, to log in from the command line, you use the SSH command, which is Secure Shell, and you give your user ID, which is your email address without the @kctcs.edu. Mine is wbeach01. And then you give the name of the remote machine that you want to secure shell to. So in our case, it's cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. I hit return. It's going to prompt me for my password. So I'll enter my password in, and I get the message of the day from the server, and tells me the last time I logged in was 4 or 5 days ago, and then gives me a prompt. So basically the prompt is set up to say I'm on wbeach0001. I'm on the short name of the server, which is CIT144. And then the tilde is what directory I am currently in, which tilde is a special name to mean your home directory. And if I do an ls, you should have done some Unix commands already, but the only thing I currently have on this new server is my public_HTML directory, which is where you would put web pages if you were doing web things. So that's how you remotely log in to the server and enter commands. And of course, if you were executing a program, I would type in Python3 space program name. If I wanted to edit a file on here, like I showed you in the editor video, I might say vi space file name or nano space file name. And then when I want to log out of this, I'm done. You can either type exit, or the shorter way is Control-D. And if I do a Control-D right now, notice that it tells me I'm logged out, and it brings me back to my local machine. Okay, so that was from a Unix machine, specifically a Mac OS machine. I know a lot of you probably have Windows machines. You can do this from a Windows machine command prompt as well. You must be connected to the VPN to be able to connect to the remote server. And if you're running Windows 10 or later, your machine should already have SSH installed on it. And if that's the case, then you would do the process exactly like we did for the Mac machine. So the process is identical. Like I said, as long as you're on Windows 10 or later. If you're on a machine prior or before Windows 10, then you will have to install some type of SSH client on your machine or software. Now, there are lots of applications that allow you to do SSH as well, and a very common one that's been around for years is PuTTY. And to use PuTTY, since we're using SSH, we need to be connected to the VPN. And then I have a short video demonstrating how you would use PuTTY to do an SSH connection. Okay, this video is going to talk about how you can connect to a remote server using the Secure Shell or SSH protocol to remotely log into that server. And in particular, the application I'm going to show you in this video is an application called PuTTY. PuTTY has been around for years, and we've used it in the past in other classes at BCTC and LCC prior to that. But down here I have an alias to the PuTTY application, and I'm going to double click on it to start PuTTY. And when PuTTY comes up, it's going to look like this. One warning is that the first time you run PuTTY, it may ask you to accept unique keys, security keys from the server to basically make sure in the future you are connecting to the same server and somebody's not spoofing that server or doing a man-in-the-middle attack. So this is the window that comes up. There's quite a number of things that you can do with PuTTY, but all we really need to do is type the server name in. So cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. That's the only thing you need to type. This port 22 is the default Secure Shell or SSH port. So once we type that in, we just need to click open, and it will open up a terminal window, and it'll ask you who you want to log in as. So you will give your user ID on that remote server, which for me is WBeach0001, and then I'll hit return, and it will prompt me for my password. I enter my password in, and you see that I am now logged in to the server, and now the interface looks very similar to the Secure Shell from the command line. And from here I can go through and do whatever I need to do, such as execute a Python program for a programming assignment. Okay, the next way we're going to talk about to remotely log into the CIT144 server is through the VPN web gateway. So in this case, a couple things to point out. You must not be connected to the VPN. This is intended to be used from a machine for whatever reason you can't install VPN software. This in the past has worked from any browser you choose, but for some reason the new version seems to only like Chrome right now. So if you have another preferred browser, you can try that, but if it doesn't work, then fire up Chrome and use it. So what I have next is a short video that shows you how in a Chrome browser window to connect to the web gateway and then use SSH to get to the CIT 144 server. Okay, this video is going to show you how to access a remote server using the SSH protocol from a web browser by connecting to FortiClient's VPN web gateway. So this is really intended for people, for whatever reason, who cannot run the actual full-blown FortiClient client piece of software on their machine. So if you're on a different machine, if you're at school, that type of thing, or if you just think the interface is easier to use than using the command line, that might be another reason to use this. So what I have up here on the screen is a tab in Chrome, and I'm going to want to connect to https:// and I've connected to this enough and recently that it auto-completed it. So the full URL is there on the screen. So https://vpn.kctcs.edu : and then the port number you're connecting to, which is 10443. So when you do that, the other important thing before we go, you cannot be connected to the actual real VPN. If you are, this will not work and it'll give you basically a server not found error. So not connected to VPN, and this used to work in a lot of browsers, but recently it seems that it works better in Chrome. So, you know, you can try whatever your favorite browser is, and if this does not work, then start Chrome up kind of as the fallback. So I'm going to hit return, and it's going to connect, and it's going to ask me to authenticate. So I will authenticate. And then it's going to come up. Your screen when you connect will look very similar to this, with the exception of you probably will not have any bookmarks at this point. So I have a couple of bookmarks, in particular one for Secure Shell to the CIT 144 server and one for SFTP. So this video, we're talking about SSH. Also, I don't want to rely on these bookmarks. I want to show you how to do this, and I'll show you how you can create bookmarks on your own if you choose to do that. But what you're going to do is you're going to go into this and quick connect. So I will click on this button that says quick connection, and it will give me a number of protocols. So this video is about Secure Shell. So up here on the top right is Secure Shell. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to want me to enter the information in the same format that I do when I was doing this from the command line. So that's going to be my user ID at the name of the server I want to connect to. So wbeach0001 at cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. And once you've done that, you'll click the launch button. And after a moment, it'll come back and ask you for your credentials on the remote server. It already knows my user ID because I typed it in before, but now it's wanting me to enter my password. So I do that, and got authentication failed. Not sure if I typed my password wrong. Actually, I think I did again. And if you type everything correctly, you get authenticated and you are logged into the CIT 144 server and you're able to do things. Like I said, this is intended if you can't run the real VPN client, but I actually do most of my work through this interface for several reasons. It's a good size font. It's easy to copy and paste out of this into, assignments in my case, in your case, into submission documents. And the other nice thing is, I'll jump around on different machines and get busy doing different things. And if you connect through the command line, it wants to time you out after 10 or 15 minutes. This seems to leave you on, not sure it's indefinite, but a much longer time, so I don't have to keep reconnecting and re-authenticating. So that's using the VPN web gateway to SSH into the CIT 144 server. The information up to this point has been on SSH. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the same type of things using SFTP. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, and the S in front of it means it's secure, or SSL FTP. So first I want to kind of talk about the scenario that we often have, and then the scenario I'm going to use to do some sample videos after this. So here is kind of a typical setup. You're sitting at a computer. In this case I called it my computer. I have a home directory on that computer. Within that home directory I have a desktop folder. Within that desktop folder I have a Access Course Server video directory, which I'm using for making these videos. And within there I have a CIT 144 directory that I'm going to use as an example. And within that CIT 144 directory is a program called hello_world.py, so a short Python program. In these diagrams, when I'm representing a UNIX file system, rectangles talk about directories and ovals talk about files. So that's what I have, or what's relevant that I have on my computer. Now over the internet we're going to connect to this remote CIT 144 server. And the file system, both on my computer and this file server, is hierarchical in nature. That means a directory can have multiple file system objects underneath it, a lot of times directories or files, and it can have multiple of those. Like this home directory I'm showing, I have a public _HTML directory, and then I have my home directory, and in the public _HTML directory I have a file named index.html, which is my default personal web page index. Over under my home directory I have a temp directory that I set up for these demonstrations, and it currently has a script file named homework7.script in it. So that's what we have from a computer and from a file system standpoint. Now what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to show you is we want to move from the CIT 144 server, the homework7.script file, we want to put that in the CIT 144 directory on my computer. So this is referred to as a download. I'm going to get the file from the server and download it to my computer. After we work through that example, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Hello World Python program and upload it to the server into the temp directory. So that's kind of the scenario from the standpoint of what exists and what I want to do, what I want to move. So like we did before, we'll talk about the command line first. So on a Unix machine using SFTP from the command line, you must be connected to the VPN, and now I'm going to play a short video that talks us through SFTP from a command line. Okay, this video is going to show you how to use SFTP from a command prompt. So what I'm recording here is a terminal window running on my Mac laptop. Now, when you're using native SSH or native SFTP, and you're not using the web gateway, you have to be connected to VPN. So just to show you and verify, here's my Forta client VPN window, and it does show that I'm connected to KCTCS, and there are packets coming in and being sent out, so everything seems to be working fine. So very, very important, you have to be on VPN. Now, if I go back to this terminal window, I'm at the UNIX command prompt on my Mac. And what I want to first do is there in the prompt, but I taught you or showed you a series of commands, and one that's handy is PWD. That's an abbreviation for Print Working Directory. And it's just going to tell where I am located on the machine. So on my local machine, /users/Wayne is my home directory. And within my home directory, I've CD'd down into a desktop directory, and then I have a folder called Access Course Server Video where I'm storing my presentation and videos for this presentation I'm currently making. And for FTP, I just created a CIT 144 directory so that I could have stuff in it. In particular, if I want to see what's currently in this directory, I can issue the ls command. And when I do that, I have a hello world Python program. If I want to see the contents, the command to type out the contents is cat. So I cat hello world.py, and it shows me my program, really short program. I have the pound bang notation that tells what program this should be executed with, and then I have a single print statement that simply prints hello world. That's something from the 70s, where the first thing you did in any programming language or shell scripting language was just make sure that your program would run and print hello world. So, you know, here we are decades later still writing hello world programs. But that shows you what's on my current machine. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to want to download a file from the CIT 144 server and then upload a file to the CIT 144 server to show you both directions. So the way I do that is with the SFTP command. The argument is the same as SSH, so it's my user ID on the remote server at remote server name, so wbeach0001 at cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu, and when I hit return, it's going to prompt me for my password. And when I enter that, it tells me that I am connected to the remote server and gives me the prompt, which is SFTP greater than. Secure Shell and SFTP were kind of born out of a Unix world. You know, before Windows existed, before Mac OS existed, pretty much all the machines, especially machines connected on the internet, were Unix based. And so a lot of the utilities we are using on our machines are Unix based. Mac OS is one of the 4 or 5 operating systems that can say that it is certified UNIX. So when you're on a command prompt on a Mac machine, you are in a Unix environment. Now, in the Windows world, as of late, they have started designing their kernel and running commands or porting commands, including commands that are Unix-like or work the same way as their Unix equivalent. And actually, with newer operating systems, in addition to PowerShell, you can actually run Bash, which is one of the popular Unix shells. So, what we do in this class is going to be very Unix-based for various reasons. But back to the SFTP command. If I issue commands here, it's going to do things on the remote server. For example, I can do an ls, and that shows me my home directory, which has a public_HTML directory and has a temp directory that I created for the purpose of this video. Now, if I cd down into the temp directory and do an ls there, you can see I have something that kind of looks like your homework 7, I think it was, where you created a script. So I have a file there, so I have something to download. Now then, if I want to actually execute a command on my local machine, I can do that by putting an exclamation point in front of it. So if I say exclamation ls, it is going to issue the ls command on my local machine. So the directory I'm currently in on my local machine, that CIT144 directory, has that hello world program in there. So I'm just verifying that I'm in the right directory and that the contents are what I expected. So I'm going to clear my screen here so that we can concentrate on this. And again, if I do an ls, there's my homework 7. Now, if I was needing to put that in a submission document, and I'm going to do that on my local computer, I need to download it. And the way you download it is with the get command. So I would like to get the file named homework7 or hw7.script. And when I hit return, it's going to tell me it's fetching it, and it's going to give me information about the download. And this is a really small file, so really quickly it got to 100%. And if I want to double check, if I do an ls on my local machine, notice that in addition to that hello world program, I now have hw7.script. And I could do whatever I needed to do to convert that into a PDF to be turned in and uploaded to Blackboard. So that is the process of downloading. Now, the process of uploading is using the put command. I want to put a file from my computer to the remote server. And in this case, the name of the file that I want to put is hello world.py. If I put it, it will transfer it real quick. It's only 41 bytes in size. And if I do an ls command, you will now see that also on my remote server, the CIT144 server, I now have my hello world program there. So if you need to download files for a submission, I've shown you how to do that. When you're submitting your executions, it's probably just going to be easier from this window or the web gateway to copy and paste your code and your executions. And if you need to upload something, for example, you typed your program on your local computer, instead of entering it directly on the CIT144 server, you can use the put command to upload files. So that is the way that you go through and upload and download files using command line SFTP. When you're done with this, the command to get out of it is simply quit. When I type quit, it goes back and shows me my prompt. So that was SFTP from a command line on a Unix or Linux-based machine, which includes a Mac. So kind of like before, related to the Windows operating system, you must be connected to the VPN. But as far as the actual command in doing that, if you're running Windows 10 or later, SFTP should already be installed and available to use on your machine. So the process that you would use from a Windows 10 or later machine would be exactly the same as what you just watched in that video. Now I want to show you using SFTP from an application. There are lots of graphical user applications that will implement SFTP. One of the ones that we recommend is CyberDuck because it runs on both Mac and Windows machines. To use an SFTP application, you need to be connected to the VPN. And what I have here is a video showing you how to use CyberDuck. Okay, this video is going to be a demonstration of using secure FTP, usually just called SFTP, from an application. There are many applications out there that allow you to do FTP. One that is often recommended is a program called CyberDuck. It's recommended because it's easy to use. It runs on Windows, it runs on Mac OS. It also has capabilities for mounting or accessing storage, quote, in the cloud. So that is what I'm going to demonstrate today. So down here in the bottom left is an alias to the CyberDuck application. And when I click on that, it's going to start up a window. Move it down a little. So by default, it's showing things that I have bookmarked, which are storage on remote servers, including Amazon S3 in the middle. So those are some things that I access frequently and I have bookmarks for. But if you're starting this from scratch without a bookmark, you would click on the Open Connection button. And it's going to default to FTP, the original file transfer protocol. However, that is insecure, and most places haven't allowed normal FTP for 15-20 years plus. So people are requiring you to use SFTP, which is FTP over SSH basically. And this is the panel that will come up, and what you want to do is you first want to type in the server name. In our case, of course, that's cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. The other thing I need to mention is that, of course, you need to be connected to the VPN to access this server. So once I type in the server name, it wants my user ID, which is that, and then it wants my password, and then I can click connect. And after a brief pause, it logs in and retrieves my directory listing. Now, a few things I want to say compared to before. When I was looking at this before and doing the ls command through command line SFTP, we only saw that public_HTML directory and that temp directory. but I'm looking and see like 8 more things here. Well, notice that all those files start with a period, and starting a file name with a period is a way to tell Unix that we want to hide that file. It's something that needs to exist, but we don't want to see it in our day-to-day activity. So things like secure shell keys, web browser, cache files, configuration files are the type of things that are being displayed there. So we may see what appears to be extra stuff. Now, I want to navigate down into this temp folder. So there's a couple of things I can do. I can either expand this and it will show me the information there, or I can actually double click on the directory name and it will CD down into that directory and then show me the files. So we have our hello world.py program and our hw7.script file. Now, if I want to download one of these, I can click on it, or I can right click on it and you see there's a download button, or I can go to actions and click download. So there's different ways I can get to this. And if I wanted to upload something from my PC, you can edit the title bar, at least on the Mac version, and put an upload button there. But you can go to action and then find upload, and then it will take you into a file viewer where you can navigate down into the folder, select a file, and then click upload. So very intuitive graphical user interface to make SFTP a little easier to use. Like I said, if you do a search in your favorite search engine for graphical SFTP clients, it will give you lots. I know in the Windows world, WSFTP is very popular to use. And like I said, the reason I chose CyberDuck is because it's available on Windows and Mac. So that was a quick discussion of a graphical user interface application that implements SFTP. The last thing I want to show you is using SFTP using the FortiClient VPN web gateway. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Chrome, because Chrome works well with this, and we must not be connected to the VPN for this to work correctly. So here's a short video showing you SFTP through the web gateway. Okay, in this video I'm going to show you using SFTP through the VPN web gateway. So on my screen I have the Chrome browser up. Like I said, in the past this has worked with pretty much any web browser. For some reason right now it seems to only work with Chrome. So I'm going to do this in Chrome. If you have another preferred browser, you might try and see if it'll work with it or not. Now the first thing is, when we're using the web gateway, we cannot be connected to the VPN or it will not work. So I've disconnected my VPN connection and I have Chrome up, and I'm going to go to https://vpn.kctcs.edu:10443. So if I type that into my web browser and hit return, just like we saw in a previous video, I am going to get a graphical user interface connected to the VPN gateway. not going to use my bookmarks so that I can show you how to do this quote from scratch. So I want to go to Quick Connection down here, click it, and before we went up here and we did SSH when we were talking about interactively logging into the server. But for this video we just want to do file transfer, upload, download. So you will pick SFTP. Now, I think this is really horrible, and I've complained to the people that make this, but they're asking you for a folder. And to me, a folder implies a path on the remote computer that I want to reside in. This should really say server name. So the server is cit144.bluegrass.kctcs.edu. So you just type in the server name, and then you click launch, and it's going to come up and ask you for your KCTCS credentials. So I'll type in my user ID, type in my password, and it will connect me. So what I'm seeing now, notice at the top, is I'm on the CIT144 server, and my location is /home/ my home directory name, which is wbeach0001. And I'm seeing, just like I saw in the command line SFTP video, I'm seeing all the files in my home directory, including the hidden files that start with a period. So over here on the right, I can edit files or delete files. Or up here at the top, you know, if I hover over that button, that's the upload button. That is to log out. To download, you're just going to click on a file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down into the temp directory. So I click on it, and then if I was wanting to download my Homework 7 script, I just click on it, and it downloaded it to my downloads directory. So that is the process of downloading a file. Now, like if I wanted to upload another file here, for example, I typed a program on my local computer and I want to upload it to the remote CIT144 server, then you would click this little up arrow, and what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to choose a file on my current machine. And if I were to choose a file and then upload it, it will place it in that directory on the remote machine. So let's see what would happen here. If I go to this 144 directory, and even though the file already exists, I'm going to say here's a Python program, my Hello World program, that I would like to upload. And so then I click open. This file is now chosen, and when I say OK, it's actually going to upload the file and take me back to the file browser. So that's a real quick video on uploading and downloading files to the CIT144 server using the VPN web gateway. So there's a number of examples of using SSH and SFTP to either interactively log in the case of SSH, or transfer files in the case of SFTP to and from your PC, to and from a remote UNIX server.